The film you are about to see is a dramatization of events that occurred in the early 70s in the hills of Rockton, Pennsylvania. To better explain the events of this film, the producers have included actual archived film and video throughout this film. This footage was acquired by Stacy Peterson, granddaughter of Frank Peterson. He personally archived over 15 hours of film and audio during the time of these events. All dramatized scenes are supported by archived film, audio, photographs, personal diaries, or as related by Frank Peterson himself in his home videos. In the end, what you believe is for you to decide.
Since you seen one?
Yeah, my 18-year-old daughter was out jogging about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And she came back and she was just white as a ghost, scared.
Yeah.
I said, "What's the matter, Becky?" She said, "I just saw Bigfoot." I said, "Are you sure it wasn't a bear?"
Yeah.
She said, "No, Dad." She said, "I saw Bigfoot." She said he was like 7 foot tall.
All right. Did she describe him at all, or?
Well, she didn't, that I recall.
So
she was scared.
Okay. So how far from this location did that happen?
About 3/4 of a mile.
She was just out jogging in the woods? And
yeah, down the gas line up here.
It happened the early morning, January 1st, and we were coming back from a New Year's party, and we were up on Rockton Mountain, and something ran out in front of us, and it was apparent that it was a bipedal creature. And we didn't see the head of the creature, but we did see the rest of its body. I couldn't make out any hair or anything, but I definitely made out arm swing and 2 feet. And the most distinguishing feature of the thing was it had white feet. So we kind of thought that was odd.
And when you guys looked in your rear view, you didn't see anything? Just
Oh no, it was gone. My husband said that he thought it looked like it wanted to slow down when it got to the wood line.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe it's peeking out at us or something. And I said, I don't care, go, just keep going. And I didn't want to be here.
Anything at all, no sounds for like maybe a half an hour, a good while. Then it threw a rock from that direction. You can see how thick this is. Somehow or other, that rock traveled without hitting any of these branches and deflecting off of anything. It's the most amazing thing. And it landed right here. Like if you would have drew like say a 10-foot circle around where our fire was, it would have landed within that circle. You could hear the rock clipping the leaves as it came through the trees. It sounded like it must have came from 50 yards away. The rock was probably about like that size, maybe like the size of a walnut, maybe bigger, a little bit bigger. And it was quiet again for a while, maybe like a half hour. My friend Steve, he said, you know what, I'm gonna find out what this thing is. I'm gonna go up there. And before we could talk him out of it, he took off going up that direction. And he said that he came back about 10 minutes later. He said whatever it was outdistancing him easily. He could hear it. He got close enough to it that he could hear it going through the brush, but he said it was going through brush like nothing, like it wasn't even there. He he said there was no way he could have caught up with it. So he came back. And, the rock throwing, the wood knocking, the whooping, whistling calls. For years, I never said it was a Bigfoot, but I mean, I don't know what else it could be.
Hi, I'm Stan Gordon. Pennsylvania has 44,820 square miles of land area, and it's also the 33rd largest of the 50 states. And throughout Pennsylvania, we have many mountainous ranges as well as thickly wooded forestry regions and much wooded areas. And it's an area that there's been consistent reports from quite a lot of the state of people seeing these strange, hairy, Bigfoot-type creatures. The question remains, of these different regions, is it possible that some type of unknown specimen of hairy man-like or ape-like creatures could exist? We're here in Derry Township, not too far from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, Westmoreland County. This is an area that historically numerous reports of Bigfoot encounters have been received. Actually, reports from the 1950s, very, very active during the 1970s, and many reports in the 1980s, 1990s, and more recent years. And why there's so much activity along this area is something we still don't have an explanation for. Every year, reports continue of people reporting encounters with these strange hairy beasts from throughout Pennsylvania. Welcome to the movie Mountain Devil, The Search for Frank Peterson.
I'm Stacy Peterson, and my grandfather was Frank Peterson. Back in the 70s, my grandfather and a friend of his, Randy Wallace, had an encounter with a wild man or creature. Most would call him Bigfoot.
Wait, let me start over. How far are we back in the woods?
About a quarter of a mile off the road. I mean...
Originally you couldn't drive back here, right?
No, of course not. I mean, it's changed a lot. There's, it used to be it was all woods, and it was a path. They'd cleared out a path to get here. They'd done themselves, which, it's my grandfather for you. Nothing could stop him, clearly, So, there's men and many talents.
My name is John Wallace, son of Randy Wallace. And my father and Frank Peterson were old hunting buddies. Back in 1973, they returned, and my father walked to the door, he hung up his rifle, and he never hunted again.
Okay, where are we at?
This here is the site of where my grandfather's cabin was until it was torn down in 2003. It's changed quite a bit. I mean, since it's been up, a lot of stuff has changed here, but I mean, this is it, so it's crazy. How
many times have you been up here since then?
I've been up a few times. It's kind of hard, because I think about my grandfather, and I mean, it's really fascinating, and I mean, I love to be here. It brings back a lot of memories. It's still kind of hard, so
It started out with a big footprint, and this thing looked like a bear, but it was big and covered with hair. We didn't really know what it was.
So you seen like a lot of footprints by the cabin for
I've seen a lot of footprints by the cabin, so what I did, I wrote down everything I had seen. All the entries I had put in was all about footprints, because everything time I went up there was nothing but footprints.
You filmed a lot of this too, didn't you?
What?
You filmed a lot of it too?
Yeah, I did. Took some pictures of it. Yeah, I had to. I figured nobody would believe it.
Journal Entry 1. This evening I found a large footprint out back of the cabin. I cannot explain it, nor have I ever seen anything like it. The footprint looked human with 5 toes, but it measured almost 18 inches in length and almost 7 inches wide.
I guess what's the best piece of evidence you ever collected, or besides the footprints? I mean, is there any
Footprints.
any hair samples or anything like that?
We found some unusual hair samples, but there's nothing, you couldn't really identify what it was. You'd see a hair here, hair there, but you really couldn't get anything out of it DNA-wise. But our biggest thing is footprints.
That evening.
Yeah.
That night we came out and we walked all this. We looked for footprints and stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't find anything. There was nothing on this trail. The very next morning we woke up and it was about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. We took the same walk down and through here.
Yeah.
And sometime during the night,
Yeah.
something walked this trail up and through with its bare feet. Now, I mean, I guess you could say they looked human, but they were odd shaped. Like the toes were all bent up, and it was just a real goofy looking toe. And they were elongated too. The foot was only about 12 inches long. And what do we measure that stride out to be? Something like 3-4 feet, something like that.
In between each.
I think it was about 4 feet in between each and stuff like that.
Print.
But I got to follow them about a mile back in. They were lined the whole way across this, all of them. And then every now and again, if you walk, I kept on walking that back in there. I kept on finding them, just here and there in the softer mud and stuff like that. But in this spot here, there were probably about, I know, if I can remember right, about 10 prints going across here.
As we're searching, as I'm looking down on the ground right before we're ready to leave, I come across this very unusual footprint. Strangest footprint I ever saw. It's 13 inches long and 8 inches wide and 3-toed. It was very well defined. When I found the footprint and the boys were out there and they were all amazed at what we had seen, I got on the radio, called one of my associates, and he came out and we took measurements of it and took photographs, and then we made a casting of the footprint. While we were out in the field investigating this footprint and this report, we got a report on our radio that one of our investigators north of Pittsburgh that morning had been investigating an incident where a creature about 9 feet tall looked into a window, and the police had found some very large footprints in the area. So that was the beginning of this big wave of Bigfoot reports that began to occur throughout Pennsylvania, which actually continued to 1974. There are many reports, even daylight. I mean, one afternoon we had the fire department bloodhound team out searching for the Bigfoot, where these 2 guys saw it crossing in daylight, crossing the tracks down there. And that night we had to take the search party with the bloodhounds off the Bigfoot to go out and look for a little boy who went looking for Bigfoot and got lost.
I think we possibly could be looking at.
I see some footprints going up the side of that hill. Right through the dead center between that power line. What it is, I have no idea. Actually, if you look right up above where the prints are at, there's another set of prints going up alongside there too. So there's 2 sets of prints going across there. Is it something? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll take a look.
It's coming down to where the footprints are showing.
They look pretty big from down there.
Yeah, they do. If you look at it like that there, they look big. But he's hitting it slid. Freeze.
Replay.
Yeah, we were down at the bottom of the hill here, and it's difficult to see, but
And Ron's down there with it.
Ron's holding post. He's doing a couple wood knocks just to see if anything comes up after I exit.
Let's go take a look.
Then we would truly know if that was possible. If it was deep enough to cast, then the inverted impression would give you more detail about what you're looking at. But due to the soil composition, you It's hard to say. Because there's not an extensive runoff down through here, I mean, it's not like it's just a mud and natural impression made by mud. I mean, there's, with all this leaf fodder everywhere, something heavy scooted that out. What we got here? On the toe to the back of the heel is 16. Let's just do this. There. 16 inches to the heel here. At the widest spot, 9 inches to the edge here, where its edge is 8.5, 9 inches. You can see looks like a toe here, and a little splayed toe out there. You're out there wandering around on Sunday afternoon, just enjoying nature. You always have a dollar bill, or at least some money, and they're 6 inches long. You take that, and you can mark that for your reference to get an idea how big something is. In this case, it was 16. Well, those are 18 inches, and that's just about right. And you know, across there to the edge is 9. So you can use that for a measuring reference. It's a pretty well given size that you can go back later and say, okay, I see a reference. So that's what we do when we're in the woods and we don't happen to be out here on a Bigfoot research investigation. You're always going to have something in your pocket like that that's a known reference. Ground being rocks and a few other things, who knows? I'm just saying that's similar.
Yeah.
Can't guarantee it.
I don't know. I don't know.
I can't say. I'm just saying that it's something out. It looks out of place this way. I was walking up here and I said, wow. So 16 inches to here, to the toe, what it looks like a toe, splayed out there. It's almost 9 inches across it.
I don't know. If it is a print, it's a really old print. If it is a print.
Has some wash over it now. It might have been deeper at one time.
Could have been.
Back into here where the heel almost would look like what would be a heel, and up in here maybe where the front of the toes were. I mean, if it is something, if this is an impression, which I believe it is, it's about that. Here, Curry. See what we're saying? He's saying maybe possibly a heel. And up in here,
we're looking like 13, 14 inches, guys.
About 14 inches. Let's have a picture of that, Ron.
Yeah. Fine.
Very good, Vaughn.
Up a little more, I think.
This way?
No, up this way. Up this way. Right there, yeah.
Almost 7 inches.
Okay, so you're 14 by 6.5, 7. Right here, yeah, I see what you're saying. This will be the heel. This will be the toes. You can almost see toes right there. We're gonna hit that with the...
You know what, though? I was thinking that is not that old, though, is it? Probably
no, that isn't old.
Well,
there's the leaf's in there, so...
Here, let me see, Karen. 68 inches.
So about
5.5 foot.
5.5 feet.
There's toes. Yeah, it looks right here. There's right here. I can put my finger right in it.
Wow, I want to get a better.
Possible toes.
Yeah.
Look, see, did you see that? See the ground? Oh, I just messed it up. See the ground? How it's pushed up there, like. And look, right here where the. Just think about in the back of your foot there when you.
Yeah.
Well, if it's anything, it's a smaller something.
About 12.
I'm going to say about 12 inches. Okay. And at the most,
4.
I'm going to say 5.5, almost 6. Okay?
Is that your Mr. Mackey impression?
Okay.
It just looks like
That's pretty small print, if anything.
Well, it's just an impression. We can't even say, you know.
Right, but it's kind of weird.
Definitely something bigger stepped there than a deer.
Because it did depress pretty well, pretty deep.
Yeah, 12 by 6, 5.5 to 6.
Pretty big bear.
Or a person. But we're not seeing any other prints of people. No.
I don't know.
I was driving to work one morning right along this road. It must have been about 6 a.m. And I noticed this black thing on the road, and I thought it was a bear at first because it was dark and it looked like some sort of animal. But then as I got a little closer, I realized it was standing on 2 feet, and it must have been 7 feet tall. And when I got even a little closer, it was looking down at the road. And I could see it didn't have any hair on its face, but it had sort of stringy reddish colored hair on its back and on its shoulder blades. And it must have been scared, or even more scared than I was, because it kind of looked at me and then it turned and went right up this path and disappeared into the woods there.
You ever seen anything like that?
I've never seen anything like that, and I've seen a lot of bears off in the woods and even out in the road, but that's the first time I've seen anything that big.
Were you frightened, scared, or?
I wasn't really scared. I'd say startled, puzzled by what it was.
Recently, my grandmother had passed away, and my family was cleaning out her house and taking care of her estate when they had found an old military trunk stashed in the basement. When we opened it, we found evidence, journal records, information on the incident that happened in that cabin, and my grandfather had kept it all these years. One thing about my grandfather is he had a great knack of keeping track of things.
There really isn't a whole lot for folks to do in this area. Hunting and fishing is what most know. So when Frank and my father stopped hunting, people started to talk. Rumors started. It got to be a bit much for my father.
Okay. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about the tree stackings and some type of animal that was you've seen earlier?
Well, the tree stackings was built like somebody built a teepee. Ain't much I can say about it. I didn't know what had built it. I know, like I said earlier, it had nothing to do with any people or hunters up in that area, so it had to be something else that had built that teepee, if you want to call it that.
You also mentioned something about an animal up in a tree. It looked like it had been skinned.
Well, it made me think it wasn't human that had built it, because it was a dead animal up in the tree, and it looked like it was being stored for food near the shelter. And that was very odd.
Any odd smells?
Yeah, it would smell like it's been there for quite a while. Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Make you very uneasy just being in the area?
Yeah, it makes me uneasy sometimes even to talk about it.
Journal entry 6. Today, while checking my deer stands, I came across a stick stacking. It was about 2 miles east of the cabin. The structure looked man-made. No other evidence of hunters in the area. As I investigated the structure, I noticed there was a foul smell coming from inside. The smell could only be described as rotten eggs. Side note, while investigating the area, I also came across a dead animal hanging from a tree limb. The animal was a small possum. Something had bit it and hung it in the tree. There are animals in the area that could have done this, but after viewing the dead animal, it does not appear so. It appears that something with hands had to have grabbed the animal in this fashion and stuck it in that tree. A cold chill went down my spine after viewing it.
They were right along this area right here. You could see them from standing in here, the large formation of sticks, and there were hundreds of them. It wasn't just one or, at first you'd think one or two, you'd think it was just a naturally made, but there were hundreds. And it looked like some of the branches had been broken off and put somewhere, to check the branches out. Some of them were fresh. It was very unusual. What it was, I don't know. Well, I believe it was near fall, my dear. The ground was a little frozen. It was a little hard. The ground was hard. You couldn't distinguish any footprints or anything. We looked. But it was just too unusual to be a natural occurrence. There was too many of them, and it was just unusual. Some of the branches were brand new, and there wasn't any storms. And it just was unusual.
A bunch of us were up here in 05 or 06, and we found an area probably about a 75-yard long by 75-yard deep area, just littered with them. That's all you could see was just tons of the tree stackings, and within 5-10 feet of each other, probably 30 or 40 of them. And we documented, took pictures, studied them to see if they were wind damage or storm damage. Some we could possibly say were storm damage, others they looked purposely put there. And as we were checking it out, we were making the discussion, well, this is right along the same power line where the two guys had their sighting. Come back up about 2 weeks later, and all the stackings were gone.
And that's not even a fallen tree there, that's just a laid branch. Something had bowed this and anchored it. This is something we find everywhere we go, that these creatures have been spotted or reported. We believe that these are markers for either other creatures or for them to come back and know that this area means something to them. The Indians use tree, and Native Americans and the chimpanzees use tree formations to mark territories. Jane Goodall has attested to that this is very similar to what the mountain gorilla does that she studied, make tree formations. The more intelligent primates use tree formations to mark territory. We don't know all of the meaning behind it, but we find the same similar tree markings right here in this area. The tree canopies that we found, shelters, look like a canopy. They do the same thing. They take trees of about anything from this 2-inch diameter size to this size here, and they bow them. They purposely take these trees, because I can do this, because this one's almost rotten, but they take perfectly good, healthy trees, and they bow them into each other. They'll take one large tree, anchor it between trees, and make a anchor point, center point, and then they bow them all in, and then they have themselves a shelter that pretty well conceals anything that's inside of that shelter. And when you go in that shelter, I'm 6'2", I can walk in and just kind of hunch over like that, and there's plenty of room inside these shelters. I found two very complete large shelters, old, at least a year old, when I was up in Clearfield County in 2010, and last year in 2011 we found a different one within half a mile of the one that I found in 2010.
I've always thought that the Bigfoots are always migratory through bottom Pittsburgh all the way up to Clearfield County and above? I mean, do you feel like they move around a lot?
Well, very interesting point on that is we live in a place called Aliquippa, which is in Beaver County. And interesting, the reports that we get there, they almost always run cyclical. They run from, say, beginning of November up until, say, late January, early February, and then they basically stop.
One of my theories is I think they're migratory, because we have sightings up in this area at certain times of the year, sightings down further south at certain times of the year. Like I say, Chestnut Ridge between November and April. Lots of sightings. Other than that, no sightings. Up here, we've had them in the summer, in the spring, and farther north as you get up into New York, the Adirondacks and stuff, they're having them up there in the summer. So I'm just a theory. I mean, I don't have the exact facts, or wish I did. That's a theory that we're pursuing right now. The fact that they're similar to the early man, the hunter-gatherers, and they're migratory in their travels.
Yeah.
Strange.
And another thing that's kind of strange is now at this time, and I never heard of the X's or nothing. We just happened to see them and thought, wow, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But on Facebook, they've been popping up on Facebook. Everybody's finding these X's. Have you noticed that?
And this isn't like where someone would actually look and see it either. You know, it's not like some kids came out here and said, let's make an X, see if people find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be more towards the road there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's freaky.
So I don't know. I really don't know.
He was fishing right over about that area right there and saw the figure standing up there as he was fishing, and thought it was another guy fishing up here. And there was no other cars parked up here, so he yelled out to it and didn't answer. And he was watching it as it was bending over and splashing water, and it would stand up, and it was doing it repeatedly. And eventually he got curious and started walking towards it, and he called out to it, and he got close enough with a flashlight in its face that he could see it was some kind of creature. And it put the typical arm up to block the light, and it just turned and walked away. And he said his reaction was he wasn't terrified or scared, more kind of like awestruck. What kind of animal is this? But that happened in 2007 out here, and he was an Iraqi war veteran, injured war veteran.
So this is where you seen the creature? You were out here?
I was. It was standing over there at the edge of the woods.
Can you describe it to me? Like, what did it look like? Or?
Well, at first I thought it was a bear standing on its hind legs, and I just watched it for a minute. But then when I really studied it and looked at it close, I realized it was just some type of tall, dark creature, but it was all covered in hair.
What, was it like looking at you, or?
It just stood there looking at me for the longest time.
What did it do after you seen it?
Well, needless to say, it scared the hell out of me, so after a few minutes I just ran back into the house and it ran back off into the woods.
Have you seen it since?
No, well, not really, but several days after the sighting I just felt like something was watching me from the woods, and I still feel so uneasy about it, even today.
You don't like being up here, do you?
I don't know, it's kind of intimidating, you know. It just changed my grandfather's life, so he was different after this. He wasn't the grandfather that I knew. He was a different person. I know something happened to him, I just don't know what. It's out there somewhere, but I guess I'm not just meant to know.
Journal entry 13. It was late before I got my supper on the fire. While sitting next to the fire, a large stone was thrown in my direction. As I slowly made my way back to the cabin, more rocks were thrown in my direction. I kept the doors locked for the first time ever.
That heads into the woods, and we're going to a location where in October of '07, park ranger had a sighting of some kind of animal or creature across an open field, and that's where we're heading out, is to that field to show you guys exactly what took place. Right in this area here, there was something standing and pulling the leaves into its mouth and eating them. And as he approached from the field behind us, it stood up and turned and walked down the embankment. And he got to the point where he could see it still on two legs before it dropped to fours and ran off into the woods. And his description was, it looked like one of those jalopy cars with big fat tires on it with the back end raised up when it ran. That's how high up it was. And he saw it for about 3 or 4 seconds running down into the brush, and then he lost it.
And Park Ranger Bob, that we're calling him, is not allowed to talk about the event anymore, is it?
Correct. Through continued correspondence with him and talking with him about the incident, he asked me to no longer use his full name and not to use the name of the park where we're at right now for publicity purposes. His superiors told him that he wasn't allowed to go public with it and not to talk about it. And incidentally, when he did go to his superiors and ask if there had been reports of Bigfoot creatures or Bigfoot-like creatures in the park, he was told no, there had been no such reports ever submitted, which is untrue because doing further research myself, there have been people who I found out did, in fact, turn in reports to the rangers here at the park. They submitted reports to the rangers themselves.
Okay.
I think that, getting back to what I was telling you, I think there's a conspiracy with Bigfoot, with the government.
Okay.
With all the information over the years that the government has amassed, I like that word, on Bigfoot, I sent Freedom of Information requests to the Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs, National Park Service. Nobody has any information on Bigfoot whatsoever. I think it's being covered up for some reason.
Why do you think they'd do that?
Well, due to economics, number one, if they find out that Bigfoot does exist, which I think they know, they'd have to close down all the lumber camps. It would have to go on an endangered species list. They already have a plan for that, from my understanding.
I mean, there's no evidence of any hair or anything in there. Bunch of lost ones. But it's definitely twisted.
These are the same trees 3 years ago we looked at, right? And had hair.
This one. No, this is a different one.
No, but it was one of the trees over there.
Those are up there. They're up there. And there's this one. And then this one here has water twists on it.
But they were never like that. Because when we came down here, we found the first couple of trees up on the front of the field. We looked at these other trees, and none of the other trees were damaged. Just the two were, the one right there and the one next to it. Now that one's damaged, that one over there is damaged, and then these 3 back through here. Could be a bear. I don't know. Why would a bear come up and just break certain branches, though?
If it is twisted, then something with a thumb had to have done it.
Yeah. And it could be people coming down here to mark their area so they don't forget, but you know, I mean,
how many times do you need to mark it?
Yeah. That could be bear.
I really don't know. They're pretty long.
Oh yeah.
No, the white tip on it.
Uh-huh. We found them like that before.
Can you see it? But you can see it has like a sort of a whitish tip on it, right down in through here. And no, I'm no hair expert. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a hair off of something. Looks a little long for bear, to be honest with you.
It might be bear.
back against there and broke to the bay, maybe?
See it? The thing with this though is don't bear usually get on a bigger tree like this over there. I'd have to see them do it to a pine tree.
I've seen it being like a larger trees. Like
that's what I'm saying. It gets up against like the rough bark. Of course, then again, hey, if one invented a better backcrasher, it would be these. That's the last piece.
We get hit.
Here's the bone pile we drug out. We drug out enough, you know, that's at least we figure that's 3 to 4 deer that we drug out of there. Jaw bones, back bones, vertebrae, leg bones. That's all the bones. There's a whole pile of them there. It goes pretty deep. You'll have to get Eric to send you the pictures if he hadn't already done it. We had them on blue poly tarp. He's at the bottom of this to the right. Down there. That's where we got. That's where we found the bones. If it's still burning, how about grabbing that for me? You want to get down there, you can. It's clear now. Yeah, Sean. It took Sean about 45 minutes or more to get all those bones. Back in here. There's another cave area down in there. I didn't even try that. It goes back in there. You can see it back around the corner there for a little bit. Vertebrae. Whoop. Another vertebrae. No, that's head. When I was here last March and found this, something was occupying it. I didn't come down because there was big piles of scat right here at the opening.
What kind of what would it look like?
It looked like
bear possibly, or
no, it wasn't a pile. It looked like a turd. It looked like like big turds or something. And I said, I don't know what's in there. Here, you want help? Oh, no. I haven't really explored this area that much. Could easily be another one.
At least one more bone. It looks like the skull, top of a deer skull in there. Looks like it's the top of a deer skull right inside the entrance here. Although I got a hard time believing that a Bigfoot would be able to squeeze back in here.
Oh yeah.
It almost looks like a rock, but I went back and checked it out. I didn't move it or nothing. That's exactly what it was.
Don't get stuck. You don't have any. You hear somebody?
I think it just ends back here. It looks to me like it just ends. If you want to get back there to film, let's switch places. I'll be able to get past that pinch out right there. Yeah, I can see really good when I get through my camera.
So much. I don't really see anything back there.
I don't see any more bones laying around, just did one.
Something, comment maybe on like why you think there's no carcasses of like Bigfoot bodies. Because you guys are talking about how you don't.
Well,
people don't see them.
Yeah, it would just all be opinion anyway. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
My opinion's no better than anybody else. There are no experts. They're just people with more learned opinions.
The thing is, the reason we believe that there's no carcasses is because there's other scavengers that come in behind them, as in any other natural setting. There have been carcasses found in other states and other areas. Down in Tennessee, there was a deer carcass found in the fork of a tree down there. There was a calf that had been stolen off of someone's farm that was found torn and left laying in the wooded area. It's not saying there aren't carcasses found. There just rarely are carcasses found. And the reason is, if you're not there within a day of the kill, then something else come along and it's an opportunity meal. They're going to take that carcass and it's going to be destroyed and discarded within a couple of days. So that's why they're not hiding it. They're just taking what they need, leaving the rest for the other scavengers in the woods.
All right, what we found up here in Cavalline Road was what I believe is a freshwater mussel. It's very perplexing. Don't you agree, Ron?
This is perplexing.
Mm-hmm. Very. Now,
How they got up there?
How they got up here?
Yeah, because we're pretty far from
water.
water.
I'm going to say we're a good 3 miles. 3 miles from down over the hill is where the first water is, what would be Anderson Creek. And if you travel maybe 2 more miles, then you would hit the Du Bois Reservoir. So it came from one of the 2 places.
And there's no other animals that could have carried it other than
the only other animal besides a Bigfoot,
Right.
I believe, could carry it. Well, there'd actually be 2 of them. One of them being a raccoon, because it has its hands. The other one being some type of bird. But for them to be, strewn around more than one, I mean, it'd take more than one bird, of course.
There have been a lot of sightings out west and on the beaches.
Yeah.
Plans.
But as far as the raccoon goes, I believe that the raccoon would have stayed close to the water. It's a rather clean animal, believe it or not, of what it's eating. It likes to wash it off, keep it clean. So I believe it would have ate it right at the spot. I don't think it would have carried it. I think it's an odd thing that we found it up this way. The equation together. First, we got a place for it to live. We got a food source and 2 definite water sources just down over the hill, not too far, about within a couple of miles.
And we're in an area of sightings.
In an area
with very little civilization too.
Yeah.
How many sightings out here? 2, 3 that we recorded.
That we've actually got to work on. It's about 3 of them, but I know there's several historical sightings up this way.
And where are we at right now?
We're on Rockton Mountain, Kelly Cellar Road. Me and my friend were up here spotting deer one night, and we saw a Bigfoot here on this power line. It was about 7 to 8 feet tall, had reddish brown hair.
That way you carry a gun with you up here now?
I'd just rather be safe than sorry.
But where did you see it at? You pointed out?
It was up there somewhere.
Did it freak you out?
Yeah. I don't really like being here right now.
You want to go?
I would prefer.
Okay, we can go.
Well, we've heard of obviously the rock throwing. We've heard of bluff charges. We've heard, grunting, and basically, researchers feel that they're doing that just to get you out of their area. I've never heard personally anyone that's been physically attacked by them, other than the Teddy Roosevelt case, the wilderness hunter, where supposedly a trapper was killed by one of them. But I don't believe that they're aggressive, but I also believe that they don't want us in basically their home. So if they are indeed a wild animal, then they can be very unpredictable. So it is possible, although it's so far the evidence suggests that they aren't.
I actually started investigating Bigfoot back in the 1970s when I was a police officer down in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. A lot of footprints, a lot of screams, but never saw one. A lot of eyewitness testimony at that time. This was doing flap that back in 73 to 75. That's if you ever talked to Stan. He was big then.
This is the pink box. People have seen these before. And the reason it's pink is because it's my girlfriend's stepdaughter's.
Is she aware that you took it?
She knows, yeah. She doesn't use it anymore. And you plug your iPhone in here. Through YouTube, I put the baby cry sounds, plug this in, turn this on, and it's like a loudspeaker. And we used this pink box a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And we brought something in. We don't know what it was. We didn't see it.
Sound just like a rock got thrown down here.
from?
We think we just heard a knock or a rock got thrown.
Yeah, we're having the same thing happen over here.
Beast was out peeing, and she said it come walking up right behind her. Gene was outside the car, and he said he could hear it walking right towards them. And they don't have any flare or anything. He said it was coming right at them. And they're looking, they can't see anything, but it walked into the clearing down there.
I can tell you exactly where it was. And then in 30 seconds, it was like, like the driver's side of my vehicle straight down. I mean, it was like right next to us for 1 second. I thought it was you, Carrie. And then 30 seconds later is that. It was like, I'll show you after they get here because I'm not getting out till they do.
Okay, sounds good. But you heard it, right? Because I heard something.
Yeah, it was the stop. Stop.
Okay, where?
Stop.
Where?
Yeah, it sounded like a giant was walking.
You know, you read about this, and I'm scared shitless right now. I heard something moving,
Who
and
did?
it wasn't like
This lady here.
it wasn't this. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't like it was.
This is what it's.
That's why I said turn around, turn around, turn
I
around.
thought they were slamming their door open and shut. I thought, why
She
would
was
they be
inside her
doing
car.
that? Because I heard.
Which way to come from?
It was right here.
She's over
And then
here.
30 seconds later, it was over there.
Which way did it come from?
Right over here.
Behind us.
Through
This
that way?
This way.
Yep.
Give me a second.
If something came through there, get your flare out.
And I think that when I heard it was probably when it was coming over, because I only heard like 4 of them.
This is good.
I'm just like, hear it go away.
Wherever you was
I
at,
didn't
it's
hear
walking on
anything.
twists.
It's just 30 seconds later, something was down there.
I was telling you, when I was putting down the pipe on there, that's why I held back. It sounded like something was going up through there, but I couldn't.
I'd swear I caught
couldn't
a
get anything
eye
on
shine
the
over
flare.
here on the way up.
I couldn't get
It
anything
was just
on
for
the
a
flare.
second.
It sounded like something was kind of going at an angle like that way, like away from us.
Okay, I also saw your lights.
Hmm. Yeah, on my way up here on this side here, on this far side.
Yeah.
I thought I saw like a flash of eye shine, but just for a second.
Just something walking by real fast, or
It was like no, it wasn't walking by fast.
it was just
It was.
curious?
I was going to the bathroom. I've been holding it all night. Down here with my ocean door. He was behind the door, and I heard heavy, like heavier than this.
Like a giant.
And I'm like,
it sounded like a giant was coming.
and you
like,
could hear the
It was so.
weeds.
Yeah,
And
and like
I'm just like
sticks.
this still.
Did you hear it coming from out of over there?
No, it was right here.
It was already there.
Yeah, but I heard
It was like
it.
right here.
But I heard
And you
it.
heard it too?
Yeah.
He was
It was
out
like
having a
5
I was
cigarette.
standing in front of the door, and I heard this snap, snap, snap. And she, by this time, she said,
And I
"You hear
said,
that?"
Carrie.
And she mentioned her name, said Carrie. No answer. Well, she got in the car.
I flew in the car.
I'm getting the flashlight, and I'm looking for it.
I said, turn around, get in the car.
And she's trying to get me to get in the car.
And then 20 maybe seconds, maybe 30, there was the booming down here. I mean, that quick.
You heard something going through the weeds, like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
like
but
something going away.
Well, see,
it wasn't running though.
Oh,
It was, I mean, I didn't take it as running, did you?
Well, I don't
It was
think
more stepping.
I don't think I heard that part because
Down there.
it went that direction, and I heard it coming past my, like almost like my truck.
And see, that's what I thought. I thought it was from the other direction, from behind us.
Yeah.
And we saw nothing, and we
And I
heard,
heard-
and we smelled nothing, and felt nothing. It was just.
It was after that second.
And I don't know if I want to do this ever again. I think by the time I screamed, get in the car, my deer would have taken off.
Nothing, Dwayne?
Nope. Nothing.
I'm sorry.
No, no heat signatures from walking or anything.
I honestly don't know what they were experiencing or what happened to them, but something did. And it's kind of good that it was experienced by multiple people, not just one or two people. 3 people witnessed it, heard it. That area has had numerous sightings and experiences and personal encounters. I know I've personally had some experiences up there with wood knocking, rock throwing, hearing something moving through the woods up there, a rather large animal. But there's also bear and deer up there, and could that have been what they've heard? We don't know. We can't rule anything out at this point.
No, you found footprints. Have you ever had rocks thrown at you?
No, I know a lot of researchers who've had things thrown at them, especially some of the PBS members. I personally haven't had that happen. And like I said, I've heard things in the woods twice. I don't know what they were. I can't say they were a Bigfoot.
Tree knockings? Have you ever had tree knockings?
I've heard tree knockings one time. Again, if you don't see what made it, you can't say it's a Bigfoot. You have to definitely go on the straight line there. That's what does happen with a lot of these things. People jump to conclusions. Well, it must be Bigfoot. We don't know it's Bigfoot. It very well may be, but again, we don't know what it is.
People ask me, "Do you believe?" And I said, "Well, I can't say I believe for the fact that I've never seen one, but I know that I've seen and I saw pictures of enough evidence that there's something out there we don't know about. What it is, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows until we actually get proof one actually exists. But I think one day, especially now, there's more and more people involved especially with the craze going on here in the last couple of years with all the TV shows and stuff. I think it's going to be a matter of time before, just like the panda bear. The panda bear was a mythical creature. I think it was the 50s. The 50s they found him. And
the mountain gorilla?
Yeah, the panda bear was a mythical creature until in the 50s. I think it was the 1950s one was actually captured. Everybody talking about these black and white bears in the woods in China, but in the forest of China, and they actually found one. It's actually a living, breathing creature.
There's times, I spent most of my growing up and up to now, I've hunted all my life. I've never seen anything. So believe me, there's times when I come out here and I wonder, okay, and it's in the back of my head, what we're looking for is just not real. But the fact of the matter, just like Eric said, the people are seeing something. And every now and again, when that little bit of something happens to us, it's just so unexplainable, then, okay, yeah, there really might be something out here with us, and that goes through my head too. But I really do, if I don't believe in Bigfoot, I believe in the possibility. I believe it's possible.
Well, of the hundreds of Bigfoot witnesses I've interviewed over the years, they have come from all walks of life, from males and females to young children, to people from all kinds of backgrounds, including police officers, people in various high positions. And these people had no reason to make up the story. But I can tell you, most of the people, even today, do not wish any publicity. Most of these people have contacted myself, and they were very concerned. Many of these had life-changing experiences when they had these encounters, because they had encounters with creatures that are not supposed to exist. And many of these people had their lives completely changed by what they experienced.
I'm sure he'll remember. There's either 2 or 3 deer. And they were all together, all does, and they were, eating, grazing. And he moved, he was looking for more, and he went to the left. And there it was. And he wouldn't have even much noticed it, except it moved. As soon as the light hit it, it stooped down to try to get out of that light. And then it caught his eye, so he stopped. He went back to it. And he was holding it, and he's watching that thing, and stood up. He went back to the deer, and he went back to that real quick. As soon as he got hit it again, it dropped. It stooped down. And it stood back up, and it kind of tried to shield the light. And I don't think he exactly knew what we were up there. I mean, with that light shining in his face and stuff, I think he was more curious about the light for a minute or so, because we probably stood and watched him, sat in that truck and watched him for a minute to a minute and a half, maybe even a little longer than that.
It's over that way. Go. You know what happened to Kyle? Something got them woke up too.
You have to state your name for the camera?
No, I'm not going to do that. People I work with and this is their property.
Okay. You just kind of go over, I guess, what occurred that day?
Well, me and a coworker of mine were driving down this road, checking gas wells in the area. We stopped for lunch. We pulled off the side. We were sitting there eating. You could smell this odor in the air. It's almost like rotten eggs. It kept getting stronger. So we got out and walked down. There was a pond to the west. Walked down there. When we stopped, we seen this big creature just bending down, taking a drink out of the pond. It was big.
What did it look like?
It was big and brown, hairy. It had an oval-shaped head, ape-like nose, big wide mouth. Scared the shit right out of us.
Was it a bear?
Definitely wasn't a bear. That thing had to be 7-8 feet tall. Walked upright, turned around, looked at us, and just kind of meandered off into the woods again. We weren't going down there. We were pretty shook up. We got back in the truck and we hightailed it out of there, and I ain't been back since.
Does it really bother you to be back here right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous. I don't like being here at all.
And you haven't been back here in quite, I don't know, a year or two?
About 2 years and 3 months. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. It was crazy. That thing was something else.
The way my grandfather would tell it, it was just a typical hunting trip. The first night at camp, there was, some drinking, smoking, cards, the typical guy stuff. And, my grandfather had explained to me that they had this rule where if nobody had caught anything before 6 o'clock, they would return to camp. The night of the incident, my grandfather had returned early when he had heard a few shots in the distance.
So when you were up there, now, tell me a little bit, you and Randy went up there hunting one weekend, right? And I guess he shot at it or something? I guess, can you tell us about
that? Randy, like I said, I've never seen Randy move so fast. He had seen it, and whatever he seen, he shot at it. And that's when he came back late that evening. I mean, he looked like he was scared. And we knew that night was not an option. We had to wait till daylight to leave. So that's what we did. We waited until daylight. We was hoping the thing would be gone. So I went outside and tried to get my thoughts together and let Randy figure out what he wanted to do.
When you were outside, something you did encounter something, correct?
Well, yeah, I went outside and then I come across the this footprint, and I looked up and there it was. It came charging right at me, right down at me. I ran like hell. I ran as fast as I could to that cabin. And that thing kept banging on that door like it wanted in real bad.
What, Randy? What happened?
I saw something out there, man. I've never seen anything like before in my life.
What are you talking about?
7 foot tall, long hair. We gotta go.
Well, I heard you fire off a few shots. Did you get it?
I shot and I ran. We need to get out of here.
It's gonna be dark out shortly. Leaving out here in the pitch black isn't the best idea.
What the hell is it?
I don't know. We're gonna stay here for the night, all right? And we'll leave, I swear we'll leave right in the morning, okay?
Frank, we need to go now.
Randy, are you sure it wasn't a bear and you didn't just wound it or something?
No, I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
Sit down. Hold this. I want to go out. Don't leave the cabin and just try to calm down.
Frank, don't go out there.
I just want to go see if you didn't wound it. It's out there.
See anything?
I heard something. I never heard anything like it in my life, but I definitely heard something.
We gotta pack. We gotta get out of here now.
No. Yeah, I said, like I said, it's. We got that height in the pitch black. Not a good idea. Stick it out. We'll just stick it out. What's gonna happen? We're in here. We're good. Okay. Just. We'll be fine. We'll leave in the morning when it's daylight. We can get out of here. We can see what we're doing. We'll pack our stuff up and get out of here. I don't think it's worth going out there and risking anything.
Well,
look around outside. You had to hurt it or something when you shot at it. I mean, it's got to be at least bleeding. It's worth taking a look around anyway. I just think it's a bad idea. We went out that morning. We was getting ready to go. It was daylight. We was going out that morning, and that's when we seen that thing up on the right-hand side, looking right down at us. Sun's up. Let's get out of here.
Right there it is.
Shoot! Shoot, Randy, shoot!
Well, me and Randy fired some shots at him. But we were getting kind of nervous because we didn't know what we were shooting at. We were scared of not knowing what we were shooting at. So Randy and I fired again, and we killed it. That's when my heart was thumping and almost jumped right out of my chest. I thought we might have killed a large man, but we didn't. We went up and looked at it. It wasn't a man.
So, what happened to the thing, or?
Well, Randy and I decided the right thing to do, we can't leave it there, even though it scared us that night. The right thing to do would be to bury it, even though it had scared us that night. We just couldn't leave it there. It wasn't meant to be seen by common folks. So we took the rest of the day off, and that's just what we did. We buried it.
Have you been back to the cabin after that?
Well, I quit hunting after that day. And after that, me and Randy had buried it, and we never went back to the cabin again.
Can you tell us where it's at?
Well, I'd rather not. I'd rather leave it alone. Leave it to be. Me and Randy both talked that over. It's not meant for common people to see it. We just want to put it to rest.
And right now, where are we at?
We are at the site of where they had stripped, this earth. This is where my grandfather's cabin was, and where supposedly the creature had been buried. PA officials had come in to investigate, and eventually the U.S. Army had moved in. And supposedly, of course it's just rumor, but they had come in and supposedly seized the creature and never to be seen again, you know, so.
It was all rumor though, huh?
It was rumor, yeah. I mean, that they found a creature, but I know they were here. I had witnessed it for myself. I didn't get to stay long because they hushed me away. But, I mean, they really could have been here for anything, but I mean, it's no coincidence that this is the site of the incident, so.
You have no idea where it could have possibly been buried with all the journal entries, nothing particular?
There was indications of, you know, certain things, but I mean, like I said, we tried finding, you know, shell casings with metal detectors, things like that. But I mean, it was cleaned up pretty good, so there was no discernible evidence of any particular burial site.
Your grandfather would never mention it while he was alive?
He never mentioned it while he was alive, I think because it was such a big deal and he wanted to keep it a secret. I mean, it was that important that I don't know if he thought maybe the world wasn't ready for it. I believe they are, but I don't know.
It's not something you like talking about today.
I really don't like to talk about it. I really don't. It's hard for me to talk about it. It makes me real uneasy.
Change your life completely?
Oh yeah, changed it a whole lot. Sure did.
The speculations in the film that you've just seen aren't new, nor are the conclusions contained therein. The details of these events have been kept secret for many years, until they were revealed through Frank Peterson's journals and photographs. Through these materials, we can paint a picture of the terrifying events that took place on that mountain. The most compelling evidence of all is the original 8mm film shot by Frank Peterson early that morning. What you're about to see now is the original 8mm film and how it changed two men's lives forever.